The night the drums went silent was the night fate turned its face away from Abini. Abini was a young black woman of the Olua village, a land resting between red savanna and whispering forests. The village was old, older than memory, guarded by ancestors who spoke through wind, fire, and dreams. Mud homes circled the great baobab tree, where elders met and spirits listened. That night, the moon hung low and red, like a watching eye. Abini stood near the cooking fire, her skin glowing in the firelight, her braided hair heavy on her back. She stirred palm soup slowly, but her heart beat fast. The air smelled of smoke, roasted yam, and rain that had not yet fallen. Tonight was meant to be joyful. Tonight, her beloved Kato, a brave hunter with shoulders carved by the forest, was to visit her family officially. Elders would speak. Palm wine would flow. Drums would sing. The ancestors would smile. But the drums never sang. Abini felt it before she saw it. The wind changed. It passed through the village like a warning breath. The fire flickered low, though no rain had come. From the darkness between huts, her mother, Mama Sade, watched her. Mama Sade was known across Olua village. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were sharp. People said she could see opportunity the way hunters saw footprints. She wore her wrapper tight and her head high, respected by elders and feared by daughters. Beside Mama Sade stood Zola, Abini's younger sister. Zola was beautiful in a different way. Where Abini was calm and deep like a river, Zola was bright like sunlight on metal. She laughed loud. She walked fast. She liked attention. Tonight, she wore red beads that clinked softly when she moved. Abini did not see them watching. She only thought of Kato. Kato had promised her under the moon by the river. He had held her hands, rough from hunting, and said, "Abini, when elders speak, I will choose you before all." The river had hummed softly that night, as if agreeing. Now, as the moon climbed higher, Kato arrived at the village gate, but he did not come toward Abini's fire. Instead, Mama Sade stepped forward. "Welcome, son of the forest," she said warmly. Abini heard the voice and turned, smiling, then froze. Kato bowed respectfully, but his eyes did not meet Abini's. He followed Mama Sade toward the elders' circle under the baobab tree. The drums were still silent. Confusion tightened around Abini's chest. Women whispered. Children stopped playing. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. She walked closer, her feet heavy on the earth. Under the baobab, elders sat on carved stools. Their faces were painted with white ash, marking the presence of ancestors. A fire burned between them, popping softly. Mama Sade cleared her throat. "Great elders," she began, "we gather to speak of marriage." Abini stepped forward. "Mother." Mama Sade raised a hand without looking at her. "A mother knows what is best," she said calmly. The words struck Abini like cold water. Mama Sade turned to Kato and placed a hand on Zola's shoulder. "This daughter," she said, "is better for you." Gasps moved through the elders. Abini's heart cracked. "She is softer," Mama Sade continued. "She listens. She will bring peace to your home. My first daughter carries too much fire. Too many questions. A man needs calm, not storms." The fire snapped loudly, as if in anger. Abini could not breathe. Her ears rang. She looked at Kato, waiting, praying for him to speak. Kato's jaw tightened. He looked at the elders. At Mama Sade. At Zola. Zola lowered her eyes, pretending humility, but her lips trembled with hidden excitement. Silence stretched like a wound. Finally, Kato spoke. "If the elders agree, I will obey." The drums remained silent. Abini staggered back as if struck. The world blurred. The ancestors were quiet. The wind did not answer her. An elder, older stone, leaned forward. "The spirits must be consulted," he said slowly. But Mama Sade smiled. "The spirits speak through wisdom," she replied. "And wisdom speaks now." That night, Abini ran. She ran past huts, past fires, into the forest where cicadas screamed and owls watched. Tears burned her face. Roots scratched her feet, but she did not stop. At the sacred river, she collapsed. The water glowed faintly blue, alive with ancient power. The river was where vows were spoken, where ancestors crossed between worlds. Abini pressed her palms into the wet earth. "Ancestors," she cried, her voice breaking. "Did I offend you? Why have you turned from me?" The river stirred. Mist rose. From the water, a low voice whispered, ancient and deep. "Child of patience, your road bends, but it does not end." Abini lifted her head, trembling. "The one who wounds you plants a seed," the voice continued. "Time will decide what grows." The mist vanished. The river returned to silence. Behind her, far away, a single drum finally beat. Slow, heavy, wrong. Abini knew then that her life had split into before and after. And the night that stole her love had only begun to reveal its true cost. The sun rose over Olua village, but its light felt weak. Abini did not return home that night. She slept by the sacred river, wrapped in cold mist and sorrow. Birds cried at dawn, sharp and lonely. When she woke, her eyes were swollen, her heart heavy like wet earth. Far away, drums began to beat. Not the joyful drums of union, but slow drums, deep, forced, hollow. The marriage was happening. Abini stood and washed her face in the river. The water felt cold, like the touch of distant ancestors. She looked at her reflection. The woman staring back at her was no longer the hopeful daughter of yesterday. She turned away from the village. Back in Olua, people gathered under the baobab tree. Palm wine was poured, but few drank deeply. Women sang, but their voices shook. Even the fire refused to rise high. Zola sat dressed in white cloth, cowrie shells braided into her hair. She smiled, but fear hid behind her eyes. She could feel it, the wrongness in the air. Mama Sade stood tall and proud. "This is good," she whispered to herself. "This is power." Kato arrived wearing hunter skins, but his steps were slow. His heart was not steady. Each drumbeat struck him like a warning. He searched the crowd without knowing why. Abini was not there. An elder noticed and frowned. "Where is the first daughter?" Mama Sade answered quickly. She chose pride over family. The elder's eyes darkened, but he said nothing. As vows were spoken, clouds gathered. Wind rushed through the savannah, bending grass low. The baobab creaked, its branches groaning like old bones. When Kato placed the marriage beads around Zola's neck, a sharp cry cut through the air. A hawk circled overhead, screaming once, then vanished. The elders exchanged glances. That night, as drums faded and fires died, Mama Sade slept peacefully. But Zola did not. She dreamed of red rivers and burning footsteps. She saw Abini standing far away, dressed in shadow, her eyes glowing like stars. Between them stood a cracked mirror. Zola woke screaming. Days turned into weeks. Abini did not return. People whispered. Some said she had joined forest spirits. Others said the river took her. Children claimed they saw a woman walking at dusk, hair moving like smoke, eyes full of sadness. Kato felt her absence like a wound that would not close. He hunted deeper into the forest, chasing animals without joy. At night, he dreamed of the river whispering his name in disappointment. One evening, while tracking antelope near the Black Hills, Kato heard singing. Soft. Female. Ancient. He followed the sound to a clearing where moonlight spilled like milk. There stood an old woman wrapped in bark cloth, her face marked with white ash. "Why do you carry another man's sorrow?" she asked. Kato froze. "Who are you?" "I am what remains when truth is ignored," she replied. She stepped closer. Her eyes were not old. They were endless. "You broke a vow spoken by water," she said. "The river remembers." Kato fell to his knees. "I was told to obey." The old woman shook her head. "Obedience without truth is still betrayal." The wind howled. When Kato looked up, she was gone. Back in Olua, Mama Sade's influence grew. She spoke louder in elders' meetings. She controlled food stores. People feared her words. But strange things began to happen. Milk spoiled overnight. Chickens died without sound. Firewood turned wet though skies were clear. Mama Sade blamed spirits. We need more sacrifices, she said. Yet the elders noticed something else. Where Mama Sade walked, the ground cracked. Zola grew thin. Her laughter faded. Kato barely spoke to her. At night, he sat outside, staring at the stars, whispering a name he pretended to forget. Abini. Far from the village, Abini walked. She moved through forest and hill, guided by dreams. She met hunters who bowed without knowing why. She met old women who fed her without asking questions. One night, she reached the Mountain of Echoes, where ancestors were said to gather. Drums beat there without hands. Fire burned without wood. Abini knelt before a circle of spirits, men and women glowing like embers. You were wronged, they said. Yes, Abini answered. But I still love. The spirits murmured. Love does not die, they said. It waits. They touched her forehead. Heat rushed through her body. Visions filled her eyes, Zola crying, Mama Sade standing alone, Kato kneeling by a broken riverbank. You will return, the spirits said. Not to beg. Not to fight. But to reveal. Abini opened her eyes. The drums of destiny began to beat again, slowly, patiently. And in Olua village, the ground beneath Mama Sade's feet began to shake, though she still smiled, believing she had won. She did not know the seed she planted was already growing. The season changed. Rains came early, heavy and restless. Thunder rolled across the sky like angry ancestors arguing. The sacred river swelled, its waters dark and fast, carrying secrets from deep within the land. Olua village felt uneasy. Children fell silent when elders spoke. Dogs howled at nothing. At night, drums beat by themselves from the old shrine near the river, slow and uneven, waking sleepers with cold fear. Zola felt it most. Her body grew weak. Her dreams grew louder. Every night, she saw the same vision, Abini standing at the riverbank, holding a calabash filled with glowing water. Each time Zola reached out, the river rose higher between them. Kato watched her suffer, guilt heavy on his chest. One morning, Zola collapsed while grinding grain. Women screamed. Elders gathered. Mama Sade rushed forward, her face tight with fear she tried to hide. She is cursed, Mama Sade said quickly. Someone envies her marriage. The elders turned their ash-marked faces toward the river. The river does not curse without reason, one elder said. They called for Baba Ifalu, the blind seer who spoke with ancestors through sound and smell. He arrived leaning on a carved staff, his eyes white like moonstone. He sat near the fire and listened. The wind passed. The fire cracked. The drums beat once. Baba Ifalu spoke. A vow was broken, he said. A mother's tongue twisted fate. Mama Sade stiffened. The first daughter was pushed aside, the seer continued. Truth was traded for comfort. Now the river demands balance. Zola cried softly. I did not ask for this, she whispered. The seer nodded. No, but you accepted what was poisoned. Mama Sade stood. Enough, she shouted. Fear has entered this village. We must chase it away. But the elders raised their hands. Call the first daughter, they commanded. Only she can speak before the river. Silence followed. She is gone, Mama Sade said sharply. Lost to pride. As if answering, thunder struck. At that very moment, far away, Abini stood at the sacred river. The water was calm before her, glowing faintly. She wore a simple cloth, her feet bare, her eyes steady. She was no longer the girl who ran into the forest. The river whispered. It is time. Abini stepped into the water. It did not pull her down. It held her. Mist rose, wrapping her like breath. Images filled her mind, her mother's ambition, her sister's fear, Kato's weakness. Abini wept, but her tears did not fall. They turned to light. Return, the ancestors said through the river. Speak, and let truth stand. When Abini reached Olua village at dusk, no one announced her arrival. The wind did. Huts rattled. Fires bent low. People turned and froze. Abini walked through the village like a remembered dream. Her presence quieted children. Elders stood without knowing why. Mama Sade saw her and felt her strength drain. "A beanie," she whispered. Under the baobab tree, the elders gathered. A beanie stood before them, tall, calm, glowing with river light. "Why have you returned?" Mama Sade demanded. A beanie looked at her mother, pain deep but controlled. "Because silence is killing this village." She turned to Zola, who lay weak on a mat. "I forgive you," a beanie said softly. Zola sobbed. "I did not know how to refuse." A beanie then faced Kato. He fell to his knees. "I failed you," he said. "I chose peace over truth." A beanie closed her eyes. "Peace built on lies always breaks." The elders ordered Mama Sade forward. Baba Ifalu struck his staff once. "Speak," he commanded. The air grew heavy. Mama Sade's voice trembled for the first time. "I wanted strength," she said. "I wanted control. I feared my first daughter would leave me powerless." The baobab groaned. The river roared in the distance. A beanie lifted her hands. "The river asked for truth," she said. "Now it has it." Suddenly, water surged from the ground, flowing like living memory. It circled the elders, the sisters, the mother. In the water, visions appeared for all to see. Mama Sade whispering to Kato, Zola hesitating, a beanie crying at the river. No one spoke. When the water faded, Baba Ifalu nodded. "The turning point has come," he said. "But balance is not yet restored." The drums began to beat, stronger now, faster. A beanie felt the weight of destiny settle on her shoulders. She had returned not to reclaim love, but to face what must be broken for the village to live. And the hardest choice still waited ahead. The drums did not stop after that night. They followed the village like a shadow. Even when no hands touched them, they beat from the shrine near the river, deep, slow, demanding. People slept poorly. Babies cried without reason. Elders spoke in whispers. Balance had been disturbed, and truth alone was not enough. Under the baobab tree, the elders gathered again. Firelight painted their faces gold and red. The smell of burning herbs filled the air, sharp and bitter. Baba Ifalu lifted his staff. "The ancestors are restless," he said. A wrong was revealed, but it was not paid for. Mama Sade sat apart from the others, her shoulders stiff. The proud woman of before now looked smaller, as if the ground beneath her no longer trusted her weight. Zola lay beside Kato, weak and pale. Each breath looked like effort. Her eyes followed a beanie wherever she moved. A beanie stood in the center, calm but heavy with sorrow. "What is the price?" an elder asked. Baba Ifalu closed his eyes. "The one who bent fate must release what she holds most dear." A cold wind passed through the circle. Mama Sade's head snapped up. "No," she said. "I have already spoken truth." The seer shook his head. "Truth opens the door. Sacrifice walks through it." The fire flared. A beanie felt a pain rise in her chest. "Do not let blood be spilled," she said quickly. "The ancestors taught us mercy." Baba Ifalu turned to her. "Mercy does not erase consequence, child of the river." The drums grew louder. That night, Mama Sade dreamed. She walked alone across cracked earth. Her fine clothes turned to dust. Her voice, once powerful, came out thin and broken. She saw two paths, one led to an empty throne, the other to a lonely hut far from voices. When she woke, sweat soaked her skin. At dawn, Mama Sade rose and walked to the river. A beanie followed quietly. Mist covered the water. Birds watched from branches. The river hummed low, alive and listening. Mama Sade knelt. "I feared losing control," she said to the water. "So I destroyed what I should have protected." The river remained silent. "I release my authority," she whispered. "Before elders. Before spirits. Before my daughters." The wind rose. Back in the village, elders felt it. A crack echoed through the baobab tree, deep and loud. Mama Sade returned stripped of her beads and fine cloth. She wore plain fabric like a servant. "I step down," she announced. "I will no longer speak in council. I will no longer lead." People gasped. Zola cried softly. The drums slowed, but did not stop. Baba Ifalu shook his head. Power is not the only thing you held, he said. Mama Sade's face twisted. What more do you want from me? The seer's voice was heavy. You must lose what you tried to steal. All eyes turned to Kato. Zola reached for him, shaking. No, she begged. Do not take him. Abini felt her knees weaken. The river surged. The vow broken must be unbroken, Baba Ifalu said. The marriage must dissolve. Mama Sade screamed. That will shame us. Shame is lighter than destruction, the elder replied. Kato stood slowly. His voice was steady for the first time. I accept this. Zola wailed. Her body shook violently. Suddenly, she coughed, and dark water spilled from her mouth. The elders rushed forward. The river is pulling, Baba Ifalu warned. Decide now. Abini stepped forward, tears streaming. I will go, she said. I will leave the village forever if it saves her. The ancestors answered with thunder. The river roared. Baba Ifalu struck his staff hard. No, he said. You have already paid enough. He turned to Zola. Release what is not yours. Zola screamed as if something was being torn from her chest. Then she collapsed, unconscious. The drums stopped. Rain fell gently, washing dust and sorrow away. Zola lived. But when she woke, she could no longer bear children. The elders declared the marriage ended. Kato moved away from Zola's hut, carrying shame and regret. Mama Sade lost her voice in council forever. And Abini, though she had spoken truth, felt more broken than healed. That night, she sat by the river again. The water glowed softly. You stood strong, the ancestors whispered. But healing still waits. Abini looked toward the village lights, unsure if her heart could ever return. The greatest storm had passed, but its scars were only beginning to show. Peace did not come easily after the drums went silent. The village breathed again, but the breath was shallow. People moved carefully, like walkers on cracked ground. Eyes followed Abini wherever she went, some with respect, others with fear. She had become a living reminder of truth. Kato lived alone near the forest edge. He hunted, but he no longer sang. Each night, he sat by his fire, staring into flames that reflected every choice he had made. Zola survived, but she was changed. Her beauty faded into quiet humility. She walked slowly, spoke softly, and often sat by the river, watching water flow where her future once lived. Mama Sade kept to herself in a small hut at the far end of the village. No beads. No power. Only silence and regret. The elders hoped time would heal all. But destiny was not finished. One evening, smoke rose from the forest. Not cooking smoke, but dark, angry smoke. Hunters returned running, eyes wide. Fire, they shouted. The dry wind has turned the forest into flame. The Harmattan wind roared across the savannah, feeding fire like a hungry spirit. Flames leaped from tree to tree, red and gold, devouring everything in their path. Panic spread. Women grabbed children. Men formed lines with gourds of water. Drums beat fast, not in ritual, but in fear. The fire moved toward Olua village. Elders gathered quickly. The ancestors are testing us, one said. Baba Ifalu sniffed the air. No, he replied. This is the final balance. The fire reached the edge of the village, crackling like laughter. Abini stood still, watching the flames. The heat kissed her skin, but she did not step back. The river saved us once, an elder cried. Call on it again. But Baba Ifalu shook his head. Fire answers only courage. Suddenly, a child screamed. A burning branch fell near the huts by the river path. Without thinking, Abini ran. She pushed through smoke and heat, lifting children, guiding elders. Her skin burned. Her lungs screamed. Still, she moved. Kato saw her and followed. Together, they ran into fire and ash, pulling people from danger. Sparks danced around them. Drums pounded like a racing heart. Near the old shrine, a wall of flame blocked the path. Behind it, Zola's hut burned. Zola was inside. Kato froze. Abini did not. She wrapped wet cloth around her face and ran forward. Fire roared like a beast. Inside the hut, Zola lay trapped, coughing, crying. Abini lifted her. The roof collapsed behind them. Kato reached them just in time, dragging them clear as the hut fell into flame. Zola sobbed in Abini's arms. "Why would you save me?" Abini's voice was hoarse. "Because I am your sister." The wind shifted. Suddenly, the fire slowed. Rain clouds gathered fast, unnatural and heavy. Thunder cracked the sky. Rain poured down, fierce and cleansing. The fire died. Ash covered the land like grey snow. The village stood, burned but alive. Silence followed. Then, elders began to sing. Low, slow, thankful. Baba Ifalu turned toward Abini and Kato. "The ancestors have chosen their witnesses," he said. Kato stepped forward, falling to his knees before Abini. "I do not ask for your love," he said. "Only forgiveness." Abini placed a hand on his head. "I forgive you," she said. "But my path is no longer tied to yours." Kato bowed, tears falling into ash. The elders then called Mama Sade. She came slowly, her face lined with years she had ignored. She knelt before Abini. "I broke you," she whispered. "And still you saved us." Abini lifted her mother gently. "Let this be your healing." That night, a new fire was lit in the village center. People danced, not in celebration, but in release. Drums beat steady, strong, whole. Abini watched the flames, knowing the final choice still waited. She could stay, or she could leave and become something greater than pain. The ancestors waited for her answer. Dawn came softly to Olua village. The air smelled of wet ash and new earth. Smoke drifted upward like prayers finally answered. Birds returned to the trees, cautious but hopeful, their songs thin yet alive. Abini stood at the sacred river. The water flowed clear again, calm and patient, as if nothing had ever been disturbed. Mist rose gently, wrapping the riverbank in pale light. The ancestors were near. She could feel them in the breeze brushing her skin, in the quiet drumbeat of her heart. Behind her, the village stirred. Elders gathered under the baobab tree, its cracked trunk now marked with white clay, a sign of survival. Women swept ash from paths. Children stared at the burned huts, learning silently that actions leave marks long after flames die. Abini knew her choice could not be delayed. Baba Ifalu approached her, his staff tapping softly on the ground. "You have walked through betrayal, truth, and fire," he said. "Few do. Fewer return whole." Abini looked into the river. "I do not feel whole." The seer nodded. "Wholeness does not mean unbroken. It means honest." The elders called for everyone to gather. Mama Sade stood among them, no longer proud, no longer feared. Just a mother, aged by her own decisions. Zola stood beside her, quiet and humbled, her eyes lowered but clear. Kato remained at the edge of the crowd, silent as stone. Abini stepped forward. The wind stilled. "The ancestors have spoken through water and fire," an elder said. "Now the daughter of the river must speak." Abini lifted her head. "I was betrayed," she said calmly. "But betrayal did not end me. It revealed me." Murmurs passed through the people. "I was silenced," she continued. "But silence taught me to listen, to spirits, to truth, to myself." She turned to Mama Sade. "A mother's love should protect, not compete," Abini said gently. "When ambition enters the womb of love, it poisons generations." Mama Sade fell to her knees, tears soaking the dust. "Forgive me," she cried. Abini helped her stand. "Forgiveness is not forgetting," she said. "It is choosing not to pass the wound forward." She faced Zola. "Sisterhood is not victory," Abini said. "It is responsibility. When you accept what harms another, harm will find you too." Zola nodded, tears streaming. Then Abini turned to Kato, her voice steady. "Love without courage becomes cruelty," she said. "And obedience without truth destroys everyone." Kato bowed his head in shame. The river hummed softly, approving. Abini took a deep breath. I will not remain in Olua village, she said. Gasps rose. I will walk the road of the river, she continued. I will carry stories, healings, and warnings. I will become a bridge between past and future. Baba Ifalu smiled. The ancestors choose those who choose themselves, he said. Before leaving, Abini knelt and pressed her palm to the earth. May this village remember, she whispered. She turned and walked away, following the river as it curved into the horizon. Sunlight danced on the water, guiding her steps. Years passed. Olua village changed. Mama Sade lived quietly, teaching girls wisdom instead of control. Zola became a caretaker of children, gentle and selfless. Kato never married again. He became a teacher of young hunters, warning them never to trade truth for comfort. And Abini. Stories spread across lands. They spoke of a river woman who healed broken hearts, who appeared when injustice rose, whose eyes carried fire and water together. Some said she was guided by ancestors. Others said she became one. But all agreed on the lesson her story carried. Herb moral lesson herb. When a parent's ambition silences truth, it destroys love. When fear chooses comfort over honesty, suffering follows. But when courage speaks, even after betrayal, balance returns. Truth delayed is pain multiplied. Truth spoken with courage becomes freedom.